2021. It is Tuesday in the fifth week in Ordinary Time. No saint on the liturgical calendar today, so I'll have something else to kind of talk about briefly. Just a reminder of the schedule that we have during the week here coming up, that at St. John the Baptist this evening at 5:30. Their confessions are available, and those go until 6:15 this evening. And then there's Mass at 6:30 p.m., followed by the Rosary. And then tomorrow, on Wednesday, there are confessions beginning at 7 a.m. at St. John the Baptist, and those go until 7:45 a.m. There's Mass at 8 a.m., and then exposition of the Blessed Sacrament begins following Mass and continues throughout the day in the main body of the church until we have at 6:30. We'll pray the Rosary and then have benediction, so that we close around 7. And the Rosary and benediction will be live streamed starting at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow evening. And then on Thursday and Friday, there is Mass at 8 a.m. each day. So that's our regular schedule for the week, and we're going to keep doing that. We'll see how much snow we seem to get throughout this week. We have winter has shown up at the beginning of February. We've been pretty lucky up until now, and we're still pretty lucky. It's okay. We get just a little bit of snow, it seems like, each time. So no huge storms or anything like that. So we'll keep plugging away. For kind of a little reflection today, I wanted to go back and use the collect for Mass on the fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time. Now, what happens is during the week, if there is no saint to commemorate, the priest would have choices of Masses to celebrate, but kind of the fallback, or the Mass that can always be celebrated, is that use the same prayers from the Mass on Sunday. So the Sunday prayers in Ordinary Time then can be used for Masses throughout the week that do not have a saint or a special feast day to commemorate. So that's what we'll do this evening. But I wanted to go back to the collect because I thought it had some wonderful thoughts and images, again, to reflect upon. And many times these collects are very evocative and bring out wonderful truths of the faith in just a few short words. So they can be very powerful in their simplicity and in their brevity, but also too that they help to lead us, I think, into a deeper reflection on our life of faith, and also a deeper communion with God. So the collect for the fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time, or for the fifth week in Ordinary Time, begins, "Keep your family safe, O Lord." So we come right out of the box with kind of a petition, but it's interesting too, the description, is keep your family safe. That would remind us that in baptism we become an adopted child of God. So that dignity that we have as created in the image and likeness of God, that sin distorts and taints, baptism restores, and so we're brought into communion with God. So it made me think too, in the third Eucharistic prayer, I think we ask God to hear the prayers of the family gathered before you, oh Lord, I think is how exactly, I shouldn't say exactly how it's said, but how we make kind of that same petition, or use that same imagery. Listen graciously to the prayers of this family whom you have summoned before you, is words that may sound familiar. So the collect for this week echoes, in a way, those sentiments. So keep your family safe, O Lord, with unfailing care. And so we recognize that if we turn to God, yes, that His love for us will never fail. It's that's a good reminder to us of God's faithfulness. We're the ones who are unfaithful. God is always faithful to His covenant, to His family. And then it says that relying solely on the hope of heavenly grace, and that's an interesting phrase also. that reminding us that we don't save ourselves, that we don't in some way earn salvation. It's not like, okay, God, you owe me salvation because I've done these good things or I've said these prayers or anything like that. It's that we rely solely on the hope of heavenly grace. And also, too, I think this prayer is a little reminder against what we would call presumption. It's not, presumption is when we just expect God to do whatever it is that we say he's going to do. Now, it's different than confidence in God's care for us or anything like that, but his presumption is kind of the presumption of God's grace. Many times, sometimes people will think about that in terms of the sacrament of reconciliation. Sometimes, especially if we're caught in some habit of sin, that many times we'll just say, well, I can go to confession and be absolved of the sin, so that's okay. I can keep doing it, sort of. That's where we start to fall into that sin of presumption of God's grace. So here we are guarding against that by relying solely on the hope of heavenly grace, that they may be defended always by your protection. And so I think that brings us back even kind of maybe to that earlier sentiment of being children of God, God our Father protecting us, that parent protecting the family or looking out for the family, defending the family. That's an imagery that maybe we can relate to in an analogy to what we've experienced in our own lives or roles that we've had in family life too. So many times these collect prayers are wonderful in bringing out images or even to analogies to our normal life or we might describe it as just everyday life, that those can be reflections to us of God's love for us and the way that God relates to us. So those are, I think, many times we can use those as points of reflection or prayer, so we don't want to miss out on the treasury of the church that's contained in those collect prayers that are said at the opening of Mass. So that'll conclude today's update. We'll continue to look out and pray for each other. Everyone stay safe and warm, and may God bless you abundantly this day. Have a great day.